Hello, it is 11:55, Thursday, 5th of February 2026. I'm about to deploy the latest version of Combat Status Limbo up to itch. As you can see, we're looking at the page here. Uh, Combat Status Limbo is a multiplayer action shooter game. Heaps of fun, still in development, very early days of development, but I figure let's just have a look at how you deploy a multiplayer game with a dedicated server up to itch from Godot. So I'm going to boot up Godot. Look at that, it's already gone. What I'll do is I'll do the deployment first, and then we'll have a look at it, and then I'm going to go through a little bit of how I've built this thing and what it does. So for starters, I know when you're developing a Godot game, you have the multiplayer server running locally. So if I press F5, you can see it runs the server. Oh, sorry, that runs the game. And if I bring this over, stop it. Whoop. You can see that's another client. This is two clients. And this is the server. So the server has a camera. And I guess I'll quickly show you this. So now that I'm running this, I can go over here to remote. And I go down to debugger, and this is session 1, session 2, session 3. If I look at session 2, then I'm looking at the server here, and I'll show you why in a second. If I go down, you don't need to worry about this structure that much, but there is a server camera here, server camera. So that's why in the server we can see this. See, oh, it's highlighted it. It's pretty cool. Oh, look at Godot go. So you generally, when you're running your server simulates everything and then just shunts messages back to the clients. So if I put this here, and then I'll get this one. Actually, I'll do this one first. So if I'm this dude, and I drop down here, which is where that camera is, you can see there is, and there's no lighting and stuff in the server because you don't really need it, obviously. This actually runs in headless, so that never actually renders anything when you're doing this in production. But if I hit play on this one, oh, what's going on here? That one's working. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Hmm. I'm not going to deploy this then, am I? Let's go have a look, see what's going on here. So this here, you can see got session 1, session 2, session 3. In my debug customize run instances, you can set up multiple instances. So I've got 3. I've got 2 clients. Number 1 is a client. 2 is the server, and I'm just passing in this mode dash server, which I'm checking when I boot the server to put it into server mode. And that's the map that it loads. And then this one here, what's that mean? Unable for? Turn that back on. Maybe that'll fix what I'm looking at. I don't think so though. Play. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nope. Certainly not hot. So debug customize run instances. Yes, you can see this is the server. That's my 2 clients. For some reason, the second client, I wonder if it matters which one. Probably doesn't. So that's the one there. That's client 1. So we client 2. I hit play on this one first. It'll work. Yes. Go to this one. Hit play. Oh. Okay, this is what I was just working on. So I must have kicked something off. Spawn config. Weapon ID. Objective type resource. I'm sure I put that in there. Because I've just called it ID. I'm actually going to call that weapon ID. Okay. Thank you, Godot, as usual. Let's do Control Shift F, and let's do it for data.id. No, cool. So it should be no more. There we go. Ha! I just made it so you can kill people. Woohoo! And they respawn. Anyway, what were we talking about? I was talking about the server screen, the server camera, so you can see the server over here. Spawn in as Lucy. Jump down here. You can see there she is. Where's the other one? Oh, did I F8 it already? I did. Muscle memory. Plate. Bazooka. Desert Eagles. Alright. He's here. You can see him there. I didn't say this was going to be a good video. I just said it was going to be a video. Alright. There's the server directly underneath the window that I just moved somehow. Show me the server. Bastard. Oh, it's on this window. Multiple screens. Alright, so you can see there's him. And there's her. And that's the server in the background. And this is the client. Boom, 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 boom. What were we talking about? I recently added these guns. Oh yeah, no, I'm doing the deployment. Okay, it's cool. So that bug's kind of fixed. So let's do it. I do want to show you this though, because this is fucking cool. I've set it up so that the right mouse and the left mouse both fire different weapons. And you click on this screen here, you use left and right mouse to kind of swap guns. So the idea is you can mix and match to some degree. And the Desert Eagle has like a huge kick. Oh, what's happened to my recoil? I had recoil going. Where'd my recoil go? It's actually super dodgy recoil that I did. Mouse look. Recoil. Whatever. I'm not going to fix that right now. Fix it tomorrow. It's fucking late. Okay, so we've got the two clients and the server, which run here. You can see in my customized run instances, I have these launch arguments, --map and --mode. Now, I'll quickly explain how these work. I get into the server bootstrapper, and I'll tell you about this stuff in a bit. Go bootstrap server, bootstrapping server. So you get these launch arguments using util.get launch arg map, and so that's what that is. So, and then I'm just like shoving it into a folder directory structure and then loading that map. Where is the part though? So the other part where I'm doing, no, that's the interface about mode. Nope, not Modo. Mode. No, gut, please. Check the headless mode here. Main. Okay, main DD. Yes, util running as server. I don't know what that does internally. Oh, it's a helper I wrote. Get launch arg mode equals server. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much. Just so you know, I've got clients and servers, and I'm exporting them separately, and I'm running dedicated servers. So if I now, one thing I need to do before I deploy this, because I'm running this, when I'm running it locally, that's why I was showing you guys that. When I'm running it locally, it runs on a loopback IP, so it's like 197 or whatever it is, 127. If I go into the strip and you can see I have here client peer create client. So this is how the clients connect to the server. When I'm running in development, it just does a 127 loopback. Port 9043 doesn't really matter. And then when I want to deploy this thing up to itch, I need to comment that out, uncomment that. And this Turtle Gully is a, oh fuck it, let's, oh fucking, I'll show you guys what that is. It's a game I made in 3JS. It doesn't do anything there. It's www./screen. No, it's not just .com. Ah, fuck you. Don't worry about it. It's a server I'm running. It's got another game up there. I forget how to launch it. Some URL. So comment that up. So now we're running on a WebSocket secure, right? WebSocket multiplayer peer is what we're using, and this is pretty much swap outable for eNet, which is great. But in web we can't use eNet, so on itch I've got to use WebSocket, or there's a peer-to-peer one that I just don't want to set up. It's too complicated. So this swaps out nicely with eNet and apparently with the Steam multiplayer thing when we get to that. So I'm commenting out the local one, and I'm going to put in WebSockets, which is my actual web server, and we're going to log into that and I'll show you what it looks like. So save this. Very simple to export this. You go export. You're going to want to set up these. If you haven't got the right export, I don't know what they're called, library, whatever, Godot will help you get it. It's just a button and it downloads it for you. So one thing is web, and one thing I had to do was something about plugins. Each gives you extension support. I think that was it here. I had to turn that on. That was the only thing. Other than that, it works. So if I go into my builds directory, my little projects over here. Upset Ned's my thingo. My directory build, then I've got HTML dedicated server. So HTML, and then I'm keeping them versioned. So last one was 1010. This will be 020. Let's do 020. Yep. Because the reason I do this, if we go into this one, you can see it names it after the folder. Makes it so I don't have to keep renaming everything. So if I go up here, web, and then export path, I'm going to change it to that new version that I just did, 020, and call it 020. Export project. So yeah, into there, HTML, save, does all this WASM stuff. Okay, oh, there it is. So itch needs this .html to be called index, which makes sense because that's HTML. And then the reason I save it in folders is because when I go to 7-zip, I can just go add to combat status limbo 020, and it names it after the folder. It makes it easier. That's our HTML version, but I don't want to go putting up the HTML because it's incompatible with the current server. So first, I'm going to go back into dedicated server. I'm going to do another one. -020, get it right. Alright, and then you can see these ones, this is all, that's the dedicated server runs right there. It's just a headless version of the Godot engine. Yes, H2O. Now I go back to Linux, change that to the right version, 020. Just going to leave it at that. Export. I guess I could skip that step if I just set the folder in the export, can't I? Whatever. So I'm hosting my stuff on Vultr, which is just like who I use. Oh, not that one. That's not me. That one. My boomer. Log in. No, I've already fucking signed up forever with these guys. Jesus, it's only 12 o'clock. What was wrong? I'm nearly 40, eh? I'm getting old. Alright, Turtle Gully, that's the server I'm using. Hosted in Sydney on a Ubuntu. It's just, 1 gig of RAM, 1 CPU. It's really simple. Ubuntu 2404. And I think I can, these guys let you expand it pretty quickly if I needed to. But I don't need to because I'm just going to spin up a bunch. It's like $2.50 a month to run this thing. So it's great. It's been running for ages, 5 months. All right, so anyway, I've got IV username. I'm not going to show you my password. If I can get out of here. I have WinSCP set up already with a connection into this because that gives me. What does SCP stand for? Secure. Winscope. What does SCP stand for? Secure Copy Protocol. Yes. Okay, so that's my current server. And because I haven't got this set up as an automated deployment, I just need to be very quick and tricky. So first I'm going to get this ready, and then I'm going to quickly swap the servers out. So I'm going to add a game. Scroll down here. So you got here uploads in your itch thing. If you've ever done an itch game, you'd be familiar with this screen. If you haven't, it's a very simple screen. It's just a form. So I'm going to itch 010 is the one that I did last, which is where I introduced this weapon select screen. I'm going to delete that file. Confirm. I'm going to upload the zip that I just made. Builds HTML 2.0 zip. While that's uploading, we'll go over to my actual server. Did I copy that root password? Pretty sure I did. There we go. I'm going to crack open. Look at that. I've already been in here recently. Is that the one? That looks like the one. There you go. Where am I? Okay, so how I've set up the server, I've got a Ubuntu that is it's just a LAMP server, like it's serving websites and stuff. So it's very standard Ubuntu. I haven't installed much. I installed Caddy, which is an HTTP server, which is like amazingly easy to set up. And while I'm at it, document your shit. So in the README, my main README, because I do READMEs all over the place, but in my README, preview, there we go. Dedicated server Ubuntu install. So I've written it down as I went. Right, so build, blah, 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 blah. Build these, make these files, add a new user. So I made a user that just runs the server. Kind of server user. Give it permission, obviously. Server, make it executable. So this is, I have to kind of run this every time I upload a new dedicated server. Because I don't know Linux well enough to not have to do that. Maybe I have to do it, I don't know. Create a systemd. So systemd is a system daemon where it'll keep restarting the server when it crashes. You really need to do this. You can't just run it manually because then you have to log in every time to restart it. So create a configuration file, which is a .service file, which will be read by systemd. And this is what's in it. And so description, nice. Service, I don't know what most of this stuff means. That's the user I created. This is where, oh shit, don't change it. This is where it's installed, start, and then you can see here, so this is why I'm showing you this. That's got the file that we generated from Godot, and then it's got -- headless, which means it doesn't render anything. -- server means it's in a server mode. I don't know. Godot wants server -- server. I don't know. Port 9043. That's the port that it's running on. The map, I can change that. I'm going to end up ripping that out and putting it in the config file when I get to that. And then mode server. So that's that server mode that I showed earlier. Restart always, and we just want to make it restart. And systemd is the system process daemon will just keep restarting it. limits? Sure. Thanks, ChatGPT. I don't know what any of that means. So yeah, pretty much AI just walked me through how to do all that. I'm familiar with servers. I'm just not familiar with hosting Godot servers, which is good. So really, you should be a fully licensed professional programmer before you do this stuff. Otherwise, good luck. What am I doing here? Note the user group. Yes, that's good. Thank you, Abraham. And then yes, when you want to, if you've changed something, reload. I need to go through this. It's in the README. Not that you're allowed to look at the README because it's a closed source, unfortunately. Okay, yeah. So Caddy was awesome. I've got to recommend Caddy. Very simple to install. And then there's like a Caddy file where all it does just gives you a reverse proxy straight into 9043. It's excellent. That's the configuration there. And I never have to restart that because it just does it itself. All right. So now with that preamble out of the way, back to the server. And the only thing I've ever done on this server for the last couple of months is exactly this. So you press up and you can roll back your past commands. So two things I want to do. First, I want to stop. So sudo systemctl stop, and then that is the name of the service that I defined in this config file. In this config file, no, that's not it. Oh, it's the name of this file, maybe. I'm going to assume so. All right, stop. So now the server is stopped. So if I go back in here, okay, cool. Well, that's uploaded now. So now that's uploaded, you got to go here. It will be played in the browser, and then I hit save, and that's it. That's deployed. If you were a single player game, you didn't have the server, that's it, ready to go. Which is pretty cool. Godot's fantastic. So if I go into here, it will run the client, but when it goes to that connection step, it'll fail, and I think it just goes to a gray screen at the moment. Cool. Got our new menu that I just did. Hit play. Yeah, nothing happens because now it's just like it's trying to connect to a server that it's trying to connect to trying to connect to the WebSockets server, and that server is just like not able to serve it. So let's refresh that page, go back in here. I stopped that, and now we're in WinSCP. I'm going to delete these files because those are my server files. Let's go to timeout. Delete these files. Get out of here. Go back in here. 020. That's the one. In there. This takes a little while. While that's uploading, if you want to play the game while I'm making it, it's not for public consumption at the moment, but you can play it. If you go to combat-status-limbo.itch.io/combat-status-limbo. No, yeah, just that. It's going to be a password is required. Password is B00GAL00, as in Boogaloo. Whee! That's the password for my game. I'm going to release it eventually, but not for a while. So then you'll get into this and you'll be able to play the game. All right. That server upload going, nearly done. It's not very big. Oh, 70 meg, 80 meg. Okay, so now that's up there. Got the new files. The service has been stopped. Now I just go up to that one. So this is change mode plus X makes that executable, and means you just chain onto the next. If you've ever used Linux, this will be interesting. If you have used Linux, you know this. And means you chain the next command, and then sudo systemctl restart. So I'm restarting that service that I defined, and then another and I'm just jumping in to check, to tail the logs, I think is what that does. Press enter. Press enter. And there we go. So bootstrapping server app. So you can see that is the server that, What am I looking at here? This one. Go over into my server bootstrapper. Bootstrapping server up. So that's how you know it's running. So now the new server is up and the new itch binary is up. I should be able to run this. New menus there. Boom, and we're in. Ha. Now something I noticed with Godot, when it first loads these particles, it lags like crazy. Watch this. Ooh. And then it's good. Same with the blood particle. If I shoot this guy over here. Ooh. I haven't got a reticle yet. I've got to put that in there. Yes. So now it's up. That's it. It's done. How good is that? You just export as HTML, upload to itch, export as server, restart, boom, done. And like I'm not a pro. I'm not that good at this stuff. So it's very impressive that I'd call myself intermediate. I can just get that stuff up and running. So if that's all you're interested in, turn the fucking video off and go somewhere else. But now I'm going to go into what I've built and how it works. And I'm going to preface this with I'm about to completely overhaul and refactor all of this. And I've never built with RPC before. After building all the stuff that I've built, I've realized that I've just completely anti-patterned RPC. So I come from a web dev background where you've got the client and the server, and they talk to each other with just strings. Whereas in RPC, it's all just one thing. It's not like the client and the server are the same thing. You just tell them, hey, this runs on the server. Hey, this runs on the client. And so I came into this being like, no, I want to separate the server and the client. I want to have very clear separation of concerns, and I want to have a network layer. And it worked okay for a while, but now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I didn't understand the problem. But I still like what I built. So I'm going to show you it. So for starters, you got to have a main scene. I mean, well, if you haven't got to the point in making games where you have a main scene yet, that's your next level up step. You need to have a main scene. And what that is it's the scene. It is actually it's the manager of your game that loads all the stuff in, and the main scene never disappears. So how I've got this set up, if I open my main.tscn, go to 3D, you can see there's nothing there. So in the side here, make this bigger. Nope. All right. So you can see I've got the main, which has my main script, which is quite simple. Hey, look at those comments. Look at all those comments. Whoever wrote those comments is very handsome. So I got ready util running as server, bootstrap the server. If it's not running as server, bootstrap the client. And then that is literally just the server bootstrapper, which is that class that I've been jumping in and out of, boot, and the client bootstrapper boot. So the idea is when that dedicated server runs on the Ubuntu, it's going to boot up and it's going to see this and it's going to go bootstrap server. It's never going to bootstrap the client. This was my way of separating the server and the client, and it's good pluses and minuses, but these days I'm starting to think that I don't need that at all, because it actually makes it harder to think about how RPCs work. RPC is remote procedure call, and yeah, if you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with it, because you're not going to watch this video as the first jumping off point to making a multiplayer game in Godot. But anyway, I'll show you how I stuffed it up. So let's go for the server pattern first. So bootstrap server goes down to my server bootstrapper, which main has a reference to, which is here, and server bootstrapper. In there we got boot. It prints that thing for you, creates a new multiplayer peer, which is the server peer. Create server on that port. Eventually I'm going to make this a server browser. I haven't done that yet. And then the server sets its own multiplayer peer as that server peer that it created, as opposed to a client peer. And then a couple of events when they connect, when they disconnect. That's cool, but then also I've got a map here, right? So this is kind of where the main thing comes in. So the map is util get launch arg map, which in here is CSL build-up, which is my one that's up on the rooftop, and give myself a little bit of defense there. Loads up the map, server.load map. Server.load map, all that does is checks if the map it loads. This is what the main.tscn is so good for. Effectively what this does, I have a world root node, which is this one, and it loads the entire map scene, whatever that map is, it loads the whole thing, and then it just adds it as a child of this world root. So this main.tscn is still in memory, it's still sitting there, it's still in the background managing everything. It's actually got my in-game UIs hooked up to the main.tscn as opposed to the player character or anything like that. And so this world root then becomes where all the players are spawned into as well. And if I hit F5 just quickly, we go into remote and debugger. So this is another interesting thing with Godot multiplayer. The debugger here has 3 tabs. If you use print, it will print everything just to here, and like you won't know which instance it came from. But if you use the debugger and you use push error, then you can go here errors and you actually see which instance did that error come from. So this is super handy. And also when you jump between these instances, you can see this thingy here is swapping out. So session 1, I mean, I was under the impression that session 1 was a client and session 2 is the server, but this is showing me that the map has already been loaded and added to the world root in this instance. So that's the server. No players, just the map. Session 2, you can see it's just got the main menu, which is this here. So I'm pretty sure that I'm looking at session 2. If I hit play, no, I'll get my other instance going over here. So if I hit play, there you go. You can see it added the map and added a player. So I've got a player character yet, but it's added me as a peer, I guess. But that's a player character. Huh. Don't know what that's about. So that's kind of how that multiplayer. If any, yeah, you can see it has jumped in there. So maybe this is a bug. I don't know. Okay, so that's how I've separated out the client and the server. So I've also made so that the client and the server are 2 separate kind of nodes, and that runs both on the server and on the client. So the client has a representation of the server and the server has a representation of the client, but after getting into RPCs more, not a very good move. It seems like, yeah, I'm not sure how I'm going to change that, but it doesn't feel right at the moment. Anyway, server bootstrapper handles booting up the server. The client bootstrapper handles what happens when a client wants to join. So bootstrapper client app, which you should have seen here somewhere. Somewhere. Okay, join server. You've got some volume stuff there for the music. Again, here it creates a WebSocket peer, not an eNet peer, and connects to the WebSocket server, not localhost. And actually, while I'm at it, this is cool. Right now, I'm connected to my remote server because I'm connected by WebSockets to that remote server. I'm not actually connected to my local server instance. So if I get my server instance here for you, I'm gonna add Lucy here and jump down back where we were before. She ain't there because I'm not connected to this server. I'm connected to my WebSocket server. So that's nifty. You can test locally on your server. Okay, after that, so then, yeah, like what I was saying, I've got the client and the server, and what I didn't realize is the client and the server are actually the same. So the client is the 3D world, and the server is also the 3D world. The client usually just sends control data and stuff to the server, and the server simulates it and sends back, hey, this is what actually happened. I'm finding it problematic and weird to have this client node and a server node. The only thing that is helpful here is I've broken out the client pawn spawner and the server pawn spawner because the player controller is different on this client. You've got the human who is playing the game who needs to put in input and move around and shoot. Then you've got remote players who you need to be able to see so you can shoot them. And then you've also got on the server, sorry, on the local one, you've got local, who's the local player controller is the person, the human playing on their computer. And then you've got the remote players is like the other multiplayer players. On the server, everyone's a remote player. So what I've set up in my pawn spawner on the client, I've got a remote player controller and a local player controller, right? Server player controller, local player controller. Spawn, and this does, it goes if the peer ID equals my ID, because this comes down from the server. The server says, hey, this player wants to spawn with this config. If that player is me, spawn a local player. If that player is someone else, spawn a remote player. And so this is, there is a node in Godot called the multiplayer pawn spawner, which synchronizes items that are spawned on the server to all clients. I really couldn't get it to work how I wanted to. So this is like a roll my own. And it works good because I now have control over how it all works. And it seems like the correct pattern. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, so you can see this one we've got like slightly different. By adding the controller to the world root again. There's that world root node from main.tscn. Really got to get on the main.tscn, the main scene bandwagon if you're doing games. It took me way too long to accept the main scene. I was doing whole games where there was like no main scene. But now I've done it, I'm like, oh yeah, duh. Okay, so I'm not going to get too much further into that. One thing I will say, I have, instead of sending input to the server and having the input simulate and send positions back, which you're supposed to do to protect against cheating, I couldn't get it to work, and I'm not all that smart. So I did, instead I'm sending velocity and location to the server, and I'm having the server simulate it, and the server goes, hey, that velocity's too fast, or hey, that location's too far away from where you were before. That's how I'm going to get around cheating. So you can't teleport, and shooting's similar. I just check it. I'm just, just validate it. And I'm like, other than that, it was just too laggy. It was just way, I couldn't get it to work and feel good. So now all the control is 100% client side, and then the server simulates it and just kind of, buffers it to make sure it's in the right spot. Yeah, so that's kind of how so dedicated server, weapons. Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's it. But I'm going to completely refactor this. So how I'm going to refactor this, because I built this originally going for like the source mod, hosting servers, joining servers, that kind of stuff. But then I realized, hey, now I can't, what if like I got to pay for servers 10 years from now? Like Double Action is still going 10 years later, but it's because there's one server and the bloke's been hosting this server for like 10 years just on his own Steam, and he's an absolute legend, and he's like, that guy has kept the thing alive because my servers dropped and I didn't fix them. So one thing I want to do is, yes, dedicated servers and dedicated server rules, so you can have your own rule sets on your own dedicated server, because I love that about source mods where people just like host their own servers, fucking nerds. And I want also people to be able to play it locally without connecting to a server, and I also want people to be able to host your own server. So that adds a lot of complexity to the system that I built so far. And I think I've figured out what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is, instead of that's why I haven't shown you. I've got an auto load called network, and network is my network spine. So all of these are RPCs, right? The idea is, if you want to send something to another instance, you've got to go through the network spine. Starting to think that was a bad idea, because you really don't need to do this. Like, all of these are redundant calls, and it just routes out. There's some advantages to it, but it's getting to the point now where I'm comfortable enough with RPC, where I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to RPC it in place, because that's what RPC's for. But yeah, so my network spine, however, will come in handy when I want to do hosting and local play, because at the moment, one of these client submit movement intent. So this is streamed to the server from the client, and then the client, the server, does all that validation I was talking about, sends it back to the client, which is another one of these. I don't know which one. But with the refactor I'm thinking of doing is a multiple network spines. So similar to my state machine, how a state is a class and it has a process. Well, I'm going to quickly show you that. State machine. I've got a state machine. Everyone loves their state machines. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. So the state machines have states as nodes. And if I get my local player controller, this one, I can share state machine. These are all the states I've got so far. And these states extend state, and state provides a couple of defaults, the reference to the state machine. Oh yeah, and then just stop. These are the main ones. So enter, exit, update, physics update. I'm not actually using update. I'm just using physics update. Excuse me. And then there's more helpers. So the idea though is the state machine navigates into a state. The state itself has an animation that it can set, and it mirrors to the animation trees state machine. But in here, the main thing I'm talking about, you got enter, which sets up, some initial movements or whatever. In the physics update, that's where I'm handling input and transitioning to other states. And if I'm not transitioning to another state, then you can see I'm like input direction, blah, 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 update animation, blend spaces, handle horizontal movement, and then I'm doing this. So right here is usually where you would have move and slide. But because I'm sending the movement to the server, I had to extricate the move and slide out to a different layer. So instead, I'm doing set movement intent. And what that does, all it does is it caches this movement intent. Intent current state equals current state. And then I'm emitting a signal. So I'm not actually doing anything here, just emitting a signal. And then the state machine signal is up to itself. Huh. No, itself. I'm looking at here. Play control. Oh no, it goes to the root node, up to the root node. And then it moves him around, but also as one step on here, it goes network. No, that's not the thing. Network. So this is the advantage of having the RPCs, is you have this like the network spine. Is you just look for network. That's where your network calls are. But hey, you can also just look for RPC. You fucking idiot. So network client submit movement intent. So it sends that up to the server, and then the server just routes it to the server player controller, the equivalent server player controller. This works quite nicely. It's similar, it's the same name. So you can see the server clamps the velocity, checks if the position is within bounds, and if it isn't, it's just like, you can't move. And then this is where I'm like just applying all of the stuff that I'm sending into whatever I'm doing, because the animation tree influences the hitbox and influences like the collision. So I need it to be animated on the server, which I'm not sure how that's going to work once it's running in headless mode, but Godot will handle it. And this is all just business logic. And then I call the move and slide from there, from the root up in here, which is a character body. Lots of double ups there. Why am I doing that? Oh, and then so the server player controller, this is the wrong tab. It's actually server player controller.gd. The server player controller also exists on the client. So what was that? Also exists on the client. So this is when it's getting sent data from the server. It pretty much just does the same thing, and really I might break that out into a helper, because that should be the exact same code when you think about it. Maybe. And then yes, that is how I built my multiplayer. And then on the server, like the actual infrastructure, it's literally just a Ubuntu server with WebSockets, you need a domain because you need, or a static public IP, but just get a domain, bro. It's not that big a deal. I think that's all I wanted to cover right now, and that's probably, you know, if there is a human hearing these words right now, you did it, you made it. I go and play my game.